So in this video, we're going to go through the process of generating an invoice or several invoice records off the back of the timesheets, charges and rebates that we've created within the video series as we've been going through this training. It's worth noting that this is the first video that we're doing within the back office area. So just to reiterate that this back office area is available off the left navigation, and the option and ability to access this option is granted through the user group permissions that are within the admin area. So within admin, under user group permissions and in the permission group of back office, you've got this option here of back office, and that will show the back office option within the main navigation menu. So it's essentially to have this option be visible to the user. In terms of the layout of the back office area, we've split it into two rows. One is for the purposes of sales, and the second row is for the purposes of payments. We'll concentrate on the Generate Invoices area as part of this video, and then we'll go through the manual invoice and credit options before going through the list invoices workflows. But in terms of Generate Invoices, with regards to how it's laid out, in terms of what it's demonstrating within this section is a table that's a list of all of the records that have been created on the system that have not had an invoice record generated against it yet. So these are all of the timesheets that have been created but no invoice has been associated, all of the charges, the rebates, permanent placements that have been made. They're all listed here. With regards to the filtering options, you can filter by timesheet, by permanent placement, by charge, or by rebates, and that will obviously update the associated table so that it shows only those specific types that you've selected. But by default, it will show view all. The currency, this is obviously listed or specified from the placement record on the basic tab. The specified currency will obviously dictate which currencies are filtered as well, and the frequency, which is the payment frequency option or the invoice frequency option that's specified more to the point on the back office tab of a placement. That's where you'll be able to categorize these. So if you have specific invoice frequencies that you've specified, that's how you can group your records here so that you can generate invoices off the back of that. What you're also able to do with owning company is if you have multiple companies that are all multiple associated companies that are all utilizing the same database, you have the ability to specify owning companies within the system and segregate your data in that way. For many instances, I'm sure there'll be a single owning company instance within that field. And then you have the option as well to single out and specifically look up companies. So if we do a search for the specific company that we generated our timesheets, our charges and rebates against, we see specific invoice or specific records within that area. So these are records that we've created, specifically this one, and this one. They were generated as part of the training video. So we'll go about generating invoices off the back of those in a moment. You also have links available within these tables. So if you wanted to open up the associated candidate record, company record, contact and placement record that's linked with this entry, then you can do so just by clicking on these links, or you can right click and open a new tab on those links. With regards to the Generate Invoices workflow, and obviously you have a select all option here as well if you want to use the select all option. But if we again just single out the records that we created, what you have off the Generate Invoices workflow on pressed is that we will specify an invoice date. So the invoice date you would categorize here, and that obviously associates the invoice date against the invoice record that is generated. You have a default nominal. So just to reiterate, you specify your nominal codes or nominal lookup rules, which we covered in a different video against nominal lookups within here, which is specifically saying that against a certain department type, you would assign a certain default nominal against the placement record. But if in the absence of set rules that have been put in place, this would be the safety net that it would refer back to. So if you haven't got established rules in place, then it would refer to this default nominal. And if you've obviously categorized or used nominals against charges, again, it's using that as the primary. And then if you didn't assign anything, it would default back to this as a fallback option. So this is the absolute default nominal that you would assign. In terms of create expense invoices, as the tooltip suggests, this is basically to create a separate invoice record for any associated charges that you have linked to a timesheet record. So if you have a timesheet record and you've in addition to that timesheet record created linked charges associated to it, if you wanted to create individual invoice records per charge that you've added to it, then you would do so. You would set that to yes, and if you set that to no, it'll all be grouped into a single invoice record. But we'll leave that as yes. On pressing OK, you will see an overlay advising that it's processing, and then when the invoices are generated, you'll see them be removed from the table. You notice those invoices then were taken out of the table as they've now been processed, and you'll see that you've got an option here to view those invoice records, and if we hit yes on there, that will then take us through into the list invoices section, which now obviously lists out our different invoice records that we've obviously created against those records that we just processed. If I go, obviously we've got different workflows in here, but they'll be covered in a different video. If we go back now, we'll cover in a separate video both manual invoicing and manual credits.